Okay, so we're live. Now I'm going to check to make sure that notifications went out because, that's never a good thing when they don't. Yep, looks like it. Okay. And I'm going to announce it in Discord real quick. Just in case. And looks like everything's working fine. So the first thing I wanted to do, since this came up on us this week here locally, we have this case of a missing female, and they have brought charges against her husband. So I wanted to kind of touch base on this before we go into Queris Watts. So Beau Rothwell, the husband of missing St. Louis woman Jennifer Rothwell, was charged Thursday night in connection with her disappearance. Beau Rothwell was charged with the tampering with physical evidence on Thursday. An additional charge of second-degree murder was filed on Friday. St. Louis prosecuting attorney Wesley Bell's office has not yet commented on what led to that murder charge. A probable cause statement said he was caught on video buying cleaning products, including bleach, carpet cleaner, and gloves on November 11th, the day before Jennifer Rothwell was reported missing. 2 days later, police obtained a search warrant for the Rothwell home, where detectives found a wet carpet soaked with bleach and large areas of blood, police said. Detectives used Jennifer's parents' DNA to compare the blood found in the house. That DNA was a match. The search resulted in police transitioning the investigation from a missing persons case to a homicide investigation on Thursday morning. Meanwhile, the search for Jennifer continued late Thursday. Officers were seen searching a wooded area in between where Jennifer Rothwell's car was found and where she lives. Police have put crime scene tape up at Ross Avenue and Sparrowwood Drive. Police said Jennifer, 28, was last seen Tuesday at her home. Her car, a Hyundai Sonata, was found near Olive and Fifi in Creve Coeur around 9:45 that night. She has no history of running off and is normally in contact with family members and friends on a daily basis, police said, but she hasn't reached out to anyone since leaving her home. Rothwell's family is offering a $25,000 reward for any information that leads to her whereabouts. Her mother, Robin Von Hausen, said her daughter had just moved to West County with her husband. Rothwell works at DuPont as a chemical engineer. She works hard. People like her. She has lots of friends at DuPont, Von Hausen said. Her family said police found Rothwell's cell phone in the car, but her purse was gone. Van Housen said it was one of her DuPont co-workers who tipped them off that something might have happened. A co-worker texted and said, "How is Jennifer?" They assumed she hadn't come into work because of the weather or whatnot. So it wasn't until late, 6 or so in the evening, before we knew she hadn't made it to work, Van Housen said. Beau Rothwell filed a police report Tuesday night and Wednesday posted to Facebook asking for help in the search. According to Jennifer's Facebook page, the couple was married in September of 2015. Beau made his first court appearance on Friday morning. He is currently being held without bond, and a judge ordered him not to have contact with the victim's family. Anyone with information about Rothwell is asked to contact St. Louis County Police or Crime Stoppers.
Yes, very sad case. So as of now, they still haven't located a body yet.
Right. But that's obviously what they're looking for at this point.
Yeah, and they're not saying if he has a lawyer or anything, because my first instinct is ask him. He obviously knows something. But I guess he's got a lawyer because they're searching high and low instead of just asking him, the person that would know, what's going on and stuff. So I don't know. I don't think this one's going to end good. I'm afraid they're going to find her body eventually, but I don't understand. I don't know. I mean, you talked to the mother. I mean, you heard the mother's interview?
I have not listened to it yet.
Okay, well, she had said in that her daughter was happy. They just moved out to West County. They were happily married, and she said, I believe that somebody took her and stuff. She does not even kind of just like the Chris Watts case, but she does not even suspect the husband at all. In the very beginning, she's saying, they were happily married. My daughter was happy. Just talk to her. She's fine. They're happy. So I don't know. Something happened.
Something obviously happened. Well, and obviously we got very interested in it because that is located very close to where we work.
Very close.
So obviously that causes concern. I mean, if it's not her husband, somebody's on the loose, right?
It'd almost have to be, though. I mean,
right. I don't disagree with you.
And that's just something I've learned just recently. It was that bleach within the Patrick Frazee case, and also now with this one and stuff, that I didn't know that using bleach can destroy DNA. That's a new one. I did not know that. Because I just heard that on recap of the Patrick Frazee case that.
Oh yeah, I did know that.
Yeah, that Crystal Kenny used bleach, and that she destroyed some of the DNA evidence and stuff. And this man here used bleach. The fact that they saw him, I don't know what store they saw him on video at, buying cleaning products the day before, goes to premeditation.
Right.
Right, because she only missed one day at work and stuff. So when exactly it happened, I don't know. But the coworker didn't call till like 6 o'clock that night.
Well, isn't Tuesdays when we had that snow, right?
Right.
So it wouldn't have been odd for people to be late. I mean, that was a mess. Traffic was a mess that day. So that probably wouldn't have alarmed people as quickly as on another given day.
Yeah, I mean, if she was scheduled to be there like in the morning, though, it's kind of strange that the coworker wouldn't call until 6 o'clock that evening. But you would think that somebody from work, I would hope if I didn't show up, that somebody would call and say, hey, where the heck is she? Even if there's snow out,
right.
Not till 6 o'clock that night. But so we don't know. It could have happened Monday night.
This is true. This is very true.
It could happen the same night that he was out and they saw him on the video camera. It could have happened, and then he went out and bought the stuff to clean up the mess.
Right.
So, yeah, this is going to be a puzzler.
Yeah, it's very sad, and unfortunately now, it's pretty evident that a body is what they're looking for, which is really sad.
Right, because they did say, apparently he didn't clean up very well, because they did say they did find blood residue on the floorboard or on the baseboards of the house. So I don't know. They didn't find a murder weapon of any kind, but
no, but evidently they found enough blood in the house to lead them to believe that they're not going to find her alive.
Right. We just don't know if this was a crime of passion or what happened in this case. I don't know. And stuff. Beautiful girl. I mean, both 28. What a shame.
Right. I mean, and obviously very intelligent. A chemical engineer at DuPont, is not an idiot. You don't get a job like that being an idiot. So.
Yeah, I haven't catched what he does for a living.
I haven't seen a whole lot about him, actually. I think that might be coming, it might come out later on as the case moves on.
Yeah, they're not saying much. He must, like you said, have a lawyer or something, because they're not, it's hush hush. Not a
Right,
word.
and they haven't indicated that they've interrogated him or anything. So, yeah, I am pretty confident that he has lawyered up at this point.
Yeah, and he's not getting on TV like Chris Watson going, if she's out there, please bring her home.
Yeah, there really wasn't any of that happened. Although this developed pretty fast, considering when we started seeing the news notifications. It developed really fast. It went from this missing woman, they found her car, and then all of a sudden, they had charged him not with murder at the time, but they charged him with tampering at that point, and then turned around and filed these murder charges, and they still haven't found her. So,
yeah, they found her cell phone in the car, but the purse is missing.
which leads me to believe that whoever did that was trying to stage it to look like some kind of robbery, maybe. Although, people, I guess, there's no way a woman is not going to take her cell phone with her if she goes somewhere.
Right. Yeah, because she took her purse, she wouldn't have, the cell phone being left
I
behind.
don't know. I would take my phone over my purse, to be quite honest, if I had to hurry up and go. Because at least with a phone, you can call for help. Your purse isn't going to do you a lot of good if you're, if somebody comes after you.
Yeah, and I don't know. They haven't said if they looked in the car to see if there's any kind of DNA or I'm sure her DNA is in the car, but I mean any kind of blood or anything in the car itself because I don't know. It's not very smart to leave the car like not too far from the house and.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, if he killed her, obviously they found blood in the house, so something happened in that house. If it was actually a burglary that and they went wrong or something, I mean, they're going to take that car and they're going to go as far as they can, then they're going to dump it. They're not going to leave it,
Right.
2 miles from the house. That just, to me, seems like it's more staged than anything else.
I don't know. This is just.
Yeah, it's significantly terrible. I know, and it's sad. It's so very close to home.
Just like it keeps happening over and over again. I almost feel like they're watching the other cases and they're copying, but they're doing a worse job as they go.
Right.
Instead of getting better at it and learning from it, they're doing it worse.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think that. Don't you think, though, if you're committing a crime of passion, that the likelihood of you being able to think clearly enough to plan it out properly, right? So it's one thing if you have time to plan out a murder for, let's say, 3 months, right? Or a year, or, because you're getting a divorce and, let's say the divorces become final in 6 months and, the guy doesn't want to go through with the divorce because he's going to be out all this money or whatever, or he doesn't want to lose his kids. And so, he plots out to murder his wife. Well, he's had a significant amount of time to do that. However, if you have a fight in your house,
Right.
and you maybe you grab something and hit her over the head, and maybe your intention wasn't to kill the other person, but it does cause significant enough damage that's like you either have to finish it off or because the damage is so how are you going to explain that, taking them to the hospital? How are you going to explain how that happened? So they decide to kill him. Then it's just okay, they're rushed trying to figure out, okay, now what do I do? How do I plan this? How do I stage this to look like a burglary or a robbery gone wrong, or a carjack? It just depends on where the location is. But I don't think that I don't know, you're married. I don't know about your husband, but mine's not very good at thinking on his feet. So, so I think that might play into it a little bit.
I think you go into panic mode if it's not something you planned and it
Well,
just happens.
right. It's one thing if they're dumb and they plan it out and they make all these mistakes, even though they've had this long period of time to plan it out. I think it's another thing if it happens kind of instantaneously because their anger explodes or whatever. I don't think they're at that point when they try to cover that up. It becomes kind of a comedy of sorts because they make such dumb mistakes that it looks staged. It looks fake. It can't possibly be that this randomly happened like this.
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, for all we know, he's a wife beater, and
Right, and I think more details are going to come out. This is a very, very fresh case that's just started Tuesday. We've been following it since we already had this live planned. I figured we would touch on it before we started talking about Chris Watts because it is very close to home, and we became very interested to the point that you wanted to go down there and help look for. and I and I advised against it. I mean, it'd be one thing if they said they had these search parties going on and we could go down there and join a search party, but obviously now they're looking for a body. I don't necessarily want to go and look for a dead body.
no,
it is very sad.
It's surreal when I think about that vehicle was not too far from where we were working, and it's
right
just sitting there, and gosh, you just don't know what's happening anymore. It's like something can happen right next door, and you don't know.
Well, and you were even like, did I drive by that car? Because like you you went to the gym for lunch and you were like, did I happen to drive by that? I mean, it's just very crazy because that it is very close. And certainly if it's not her husband and it was some random person, that causes a whole different level of concern.
Yeah, but the fact that he's on camera buying cleaning products is
I don't disagree. Something
damning.
certainly happened, and I mean, hopefully we will over the weekend and into next week we'll get more information. Hopefully they'll find her sooner rather than later, because I mean, it's been very cold, but now it's going to start warming up, and I'd kind of rather them find her while they could still get evidence.
Right, yeah, because if it stayed cold, then it would,
It would slow the decomposing, but
right.
Obviously, as it's going to warm up, I mean, somebody was saying it's possibly going to get close to 60 next week. Obviously, they need to find her very quickly. Especially, I mean, I'm going to assume she's outside somewhere. I'm going to assume that like he didn't hide her in the wall in the house or some crazy thing like that.
Yeah, I know they were searching dumpsters and stuff too, some of the businesses and stuff. So, I mean, she could be Creve Coeur Park right there. I mean, Creve Coeur Park is kind of a pretty big park, but that is a lot. People go to that park.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that go there, and a lot of people walk and run and jog and walk their dogs and take their dogs out there to play frisbee. If he dumped her or whoever dumped her at that park, it won't take very long to find her.
No.
I mean, because people fish there. I mean, there's all. I mean, we've gone fishing there quite a bit, so there are a lot of people there all the time.
Only been married 4 years too. I don't know. Just 4 years. I don't know.
It's really a shame that people marry people that end up being like this.
I know.
Very, very crazy. And the more I watch these true crime shows, the more it amazes me how things go on and people, whether it be, the person's parents or spouse or even children, don't pick up on these signs that something is not right here and don't dig further into what the heck, this doesn't make sense. Why is this going on? I was just today, I watched a show that was about a serial killer that had a family, right? He had gone to jail for burglary, robbing a bank, something. I don't remember exactly. Had gone to jail for a few years, came out, married, has children, lived a normal life. Well, so the family thought anyway. But he ended up, they moved to one place, and he had said he was befriending the police, and he was snitching on criminals in the area, and then all of a sudden their house caught on fire, and he said it was because somebody found out that he had snitched on them, and so they started moving, and everywhere they moved it was like they had to keep moving. Okay, well, to me as the spouse, I would be like, okay, what are you doing? I mean, okay, quit helping the police if this is what's actually causing this to happen, or what the heck is really going on here? And turns
Right.
out they were moving because he was killing people in the areas that, they were moving to all the time.
Oh my gosh, how horrible. What a nightmare.
I mean, and here's the thing. They didn't catch him till 30 years later when
Wow.
his daughter was reading a news article and recognized a picture that was in the news article and was like, I've been there before. And it started triggering like memories coming back. And then she remembered why they were there and that her dad was there. And she was like, oh my gosh, I think my dad did this. And she called the police, right? And she ended up turning her dad in. That's how he got caught. They would
Wow.
have probably never caught him. And when they caught him, he was still with his wife. They were living in a trailer. He was in his 70s, poor health, and they prosecuted him for this case. And he pled guilty because he wanted to be put to death, but they didn't have the death penalty where that crime happened, and so he started admitting to other crimes until somebody gave him the death penalty.
Oh, wow. Crazy. Did they end up putting him to death?
He did end up getting a death, and a month before his death sentence was to be carried out, he died of his
Wow.
health problems.
Gosh. Wow.
But I don't understand. I mean, obviously, this poor lady's only been married to him for 4 years, so maybe there wasn't any, uh, sure signs that she was in any kind of danger. But my goodness. Hey, J Bells, how are you? If any of you guys are wanting to join this discussion, we're going to start Chris Watts here in a minute. Feel free. If you're in Discord, mods have a link in Discord. You're more than welcome to join in. You don't have to show your face. Maria never shows her face, just a picture. Yeah, on that note, I guess we'll leave that one where it is, and I will we'll be giving updates. So if something significant happens before next Saturday, we'll probably do something, even if it's just
Yeah, right. Yeah.
a videotape something and upload it. Otherwise, plan on us probably mentioning this again next weekend or giving updates on it next weekend. Okay, so now on to your favorite subject. I don't want to share that. I want to share. Why is this not gonna? Why won't it let me do this? Wonder if it'll let me do it this way. I'm still working this silly thing out. Let's see. Yep, there we go. All right. I don't know if I can make this any bigger than it is. Yes, I can. All right. So this is your case. I came in at the tail end of this case, so I will let you kind of give a background description and kind of, how it all came about.
Christopher Watts. There's so much. Where do you begin with Christopher Watts? He was supposedly a happily married man with two beautiful, beautiful little girls, and apparently they had a great relationship. They didn't handle their finances very well, but his wife, I mean, God rest her soul, but she was running a Thrive business, which is selling. It was like a patches and pills and shakes that you take. They were for not only for weight loss, but also they were filled with vitamins. And apparently, what I'm learning now is they were filled with a lot of caffeine too. But and they seemed to have a great relationship. His in-laws just love him. They still love him to this day. They don't like what he did, but they're a Christian family, and they still say that they love him. And everything was fine, apparently. But he ended up meeting someone at work, and I guess it all just went downhill from there. But when you look at his background, he was a very passive man, and she was more of a. His wife was more of a go-getter and a leader, and she was basically the one in charge and stuff. You always have like a dominant person, usually pairing up with a passive person and stuff, and it seemed to work fine. I mean, his interviews have said that they had a great relationship. He thought they had a great relationship, but then he met this other woman, and NK, we want to call her, at work and stuff. According to the emails that were found, that the company itself provided to the police, they started talking in the beginning of June. Well, I'm sure there was co-workers that said they had seen them talking in the hallway before that, but corresponding on email, they started like in the beginning of June and stuff. But so meanwhile, then Shanann got pregnant, and nobody knows for sure yet, still to this day, that whose idea it was, because she said he wanted it and he says she wanted it. So they kind of blamed each other who wanted to have another child and stuff. But they were in very bad financial difficulties. They were behind on their mortgage and stuff. And I guess she was making good money with this Thrive, but this business, in order to make money, you got to spend money. It's like $200 a month just for the stuff to use. And they were both using it. He was using 2 patches a day, which you're supposed to put 1 patch on you every day. You're supposed to take a shake every day and these pills. And then there's also protein bars and different stuff too. But he was taking more than he should. But he had lost a lot of weight and he was in great shape with it. But so they had a lot of financial difficulties. Money's always seems like it's involved in these cases too. And she went away for 5 weeks to North Carolina to visit family and stuff, and that's when the relationship with the other one developed. The end of June and stuff. So he had 5 weeks with this other woman, and while his whole family was gone, and what happened in those 5 weeks apparently sealed the deal enough to where he was done with his family and wanted to just get rid of them and do a reset and start over with this other woman. And that's what happened when she got back, unfortunately. There's a lot of other stuff. This case is just, the more you dig, the more the more rabbit holes there are, because he keeps coming up with more and more different stories and stuff. And I know, you know, there's the book that just came out that's a pretty hot topic right now, The Letters from Christopher, where he tells this lady that what exactly happened that night and how he killed the children. And I mean, he's changed his story so many times. It's like, I wish we had a trial so that we could have some real closure. But without a trial, we're stuck, you know.
Do you think that, do you think if there had been a trial, that, like, watching his reactions to people testifying and stuff would have given a better insight as to whether or not he was being truthful or lying in some of these interviews and stuff?
Absolutely, because, you know, they hooked him up to a lie detector, okay, and asked him questions. But every time he changed his story, I'm sorry, he needs to be hooked up to the lie detector again to make sure that this time it's the truth, because he's changed his story so many times. First, he says that first he said when he was in the interrogation room, he said that she killed the kids, which, hello, no way in hell did that happen. And then he changed it and says that he strangled them, and then he strangled her. But the kids were not strangled. It says they were smothered. So that story went out the window. And then he says that, you know, he killed her, and then he took the kids with him, and he killed them over there at the oil field. And then one by one, he killed one of the girls, and then walked all the way the big distance, you know, half a mile, all the way up these long steps, and put her in the tank, and then came all the way back down, all the way. If you see the pictures of it, I mean, most people have seen the pictures of it. Big old flight of steps to go up to the oil tanks. It was all the way back down. Meanwhile, the little girl just sits there waiting for her daddy to come back and kill her. And then he kills the other one, and she says, "Daddy, no." And he kills her anyway. And then pulls all the way up there. When the police saw the size of the hole, they were like, "Are you sure that you put them in there? Because we don't think that you could have fit those girls in that." And it's like an 8-inch hole and stuff. Now, Cece was, you know, she had just turned 3. She had just turned her 3 her 3rd birthday in July. So she was smaller, but Bella was tall and thin, but she wasn't. Still, she was like 4. I mean, a 4-year-old going into an 8-inch hole, it just seems so unrealistic. I don't know, you know. There is a hatch on the very bottom. There's a hole where they drain it and stuff.
Right,
And
right.
stuff out. And it took them hours and hours to get those children out of those tanks. All those people are still, they have counseling and stuff because of what they.
I have to say, hang on, I need a drink because I don't know what's choking me right now. But I have to say, of all the horrendous murders of children that I have heard of, seen, watched stories about, I have to wonder, how horrible is it for a father to come up with a method of disposing of his children by putting them in oil tanks? And to me, the only reason I can even fathom that he would have wanted to do that was so that the kids would never be recovered.
Exactly.
However, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shanann was buried in a pretty shallow grave, right?
Yes.
So it does not make a lot of sense to me as to why you would want your children, their bodies to not be found, which means, you know, they cannot be put to rest properly. People would wonder forever, you know, where they ended up or what happened to them. But yet your wife, you're going to bury in such a way where it wouldn't be very difficult to find her.
Right, and that goes to the timing thing. She was supposed to be back at 11, but her flight was delayed because the power went out where she was at in Arizona. So she didn't get back until 10 to 2. So I'm thinking the difference in timing is what he ran out of time. And before he had said, "Oh, I didn't put him in separate tanks for any reason, particular reason." But now he's saying, "I did that so that they would decompose quicker." Because
Okay, but if he was so pressed for time, from what I understand, it took some time to put those kids in those oil tankers, right? Or whatever. Okay. So wouldn't it have been, I mean, obviously this would take a smarter person to figure this out, but wouldn't it have been better to spend the time burying the wife in such a way that she wouldn't be found, as opposed to spending all that time disposing of the children? And basically, I mean, he ended up burying Shanann in a way it was very easy for people to find.
right, right. It's just this case is so bizarre because now the story is that she came home and they had sex. She initiated sex, which okay, maybe. I mean, she was trying. She was trying to get close to him before she left on this trip. So it's possible, maybe. I don't know, but I know she was hurting. She was tired, so I don't know. So anyway, they had sex. She goes to sleep. This all happened at 2 a.m. because we're also wide awake.
Hi, the Bryan clan. Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. Hi, the Bryan clan.
And so then he gets up, he goes into the kids' rooms and smothers them with a pillow. And then he comes back into her room and they argue. And then he kills her there. And then the kids come walking in because apparently he thought they were dead, but they weren't dead, kind of thing. I'm like, okay, you had them for the whole weekend and stuff, and you wait until after she came home to try and kill the kids. I don't think that's right. That don't make any sense to me at all. Why he would wait until she came home and then kill them, unless he's thinking as soon as she comes home, she's going to check on the kids. But it's possible she wouldn't have checked on the kids because they were light sleepers. That's why he wasn't allowed to go out the garage.
Right. I did remember hearing about that. So
that's how the neighbor got him. The neighbor knew a lot about him too. The neighbors knew he wasn't allowed to go out that garage door,
right,
because kids were light sleepers. So he had to go out the front door. And the neighbor's like, "Why is he backing the truck?" He never backs his truck up. He wasn't allowed to back the truck up in the driveway because it leaked oil, and she didn't want oil in the driveway. She was meticulous about the house, about everything. She was OCD. Everything was in order, and she controlled everything. Okay, she's a big controller, but so the right away the neighbor's
okay,
like,
but so are you and I.
well,
in
yeah,
a way.
I know that, but that's how the neighbor is like,
right.
Why did he back up into the driveway? He's not supposed to do that. The family knew that. Her parents knew that. Oh, he's not supposed to be there. Soon the parents heard that he backed his truck up into the driveway, they're like, he did something. Right away, they were like, he did something. Because he was acting weird when he went down there that last week. Flew down to North Carolina for that last week that she was there. And he was acting very distant and stuff. And there is talk now that he's saying that he gave her oxycodone and to try and have a miscarriage when he went down there.
I thought they didn't find anything in her, though.
Well, from what I'm hearing, that drug doesn't stay in your system. So by the time they would have found her, they wouldn't have found that in her system. It doesn't stay in there, but maybe a day. So she was very sick that night because she was texting her friend and saying how she was throwing up and very sick, and he wasn't even paying any attention to her. And the brother had said the same thing. He goes, I don't know what was wrong with him, but she was on the couch. She was just vomiting and just sick as a dog.
Okay, so I asked somebody who works in the medical field. I don't know if she wants me to throw her name out, but anyway, you know who she is. because she's a YouTuber that
Yeah.
I'm friends with, and because she knows a lot about this case too.
Sure.
And she was kind of giving me a download too, because I did not follow this case when it was happening. So I am very, I'm playing catch up the whole time. And I asked her about the fact that, okay, so if she was if he had given her those pills and she was vomiting, would it remove that from her system to the point that her body would not test positive for it? And she said no. She said if she had taken that, being ill would not have removed all traces of it from the system. So,
but for how long? How long does it stay in your system? Because they didn't find her until the 14th, 15th. They found her,
right?
Stuff, and that
well,
would have been the first week of August.
I cannot answer that question. I did not ask her that question, but she did say that, in her opinion, that they would have found at least traces of the drug in her system when they did the autopsy.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
He did do a search on it too, and I mean, he said he did it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. You have to take what he says, and then you take
as a grain of salt, and with a grain of salt. I know, because it's and do you think that the reason why he keeps coming up with these other stories is for attention, or because he doesn't really want anybody to know what really happened?
Well, he did seal the kids' medical records, and he said that he took the plea so that he wouldn't have to go to court and everybody find out exactly what happened. So it's possible that he doesn't want a clear story, because when those agents flew all the way to Wisconsin to talk to him and stuff, he had a different story there too. That's when he said he smothered the kids with the blankets and then put them in the oil tanks. He didn't say he killed them at home. And this last story where he's saying he killed them and then they woke up again.
Okay, so on the autopsy of the kids, does it say that they were smothered or strangled? I thought it was strangled. That smothering?
Yeah, it was smothering.
Okay. So then his strangling story can't possibly be true if they were smothered.
Right. That was the very first story he told whenever he was in the interrogation room, and he said that Shanann strangled him, and that he went in there and did the same thing to her that she did to them. And they're like, really? I mean, we're not buying this at all. But they're the one that fed him the story to begin with, to see if he would take the bait. They had said, did Shanann do something to the kids and you're trying to protect her? And then all of a sudden he comes up with this story. Yeah, she did it, and stuff. And the dad that was in there with him, he wasn't very shocked at that. And he was like, oh, yeah, she said that if you ever cheated on her, that she would get you tenfold. I guess she was serious. He was not very shocked at anything that his son was telling him and everything. And they had a long drive from the airport whenever he went to pick him up. So I'm sure he filled them all in on what was going on, because his dad pulled up that picture. You know about the picture with the doll on the couch with the blanket over the doll?
I heard something about that. I don't know that I know the whole story of that.
While she was in North Carolina, he sent her a picture of a life-size doll, pretty tall doll, and with a blanket over. And he said the kids did it. And so when she put on Facebook, I don't know what to think about this and stuff. And he was saying, well, she put that on there and stuff, so maybe she was thinking about killing the kids. This is the dad.
Oh, but he's the one that sent it to her in the first place.
Right. He's the one that sent it, but the dad was trying to say that Shanann was the one that took the picture, and she's the one that uploaded it, and she was,
I see,
crazy. She's crazy. They always thought she was crazy.
Obviously, he's the one that's crazy.
Yeah, both of them. She didn't.
I'm sorry. Anybody who can eliminate their family and like it's no skin off their nose, there's definitely something wrong with them.
Yeah, he was a complete. If you watch him that morning going in and out and in and out, he looked like an absolute zombie. Loading things in to the truck and stuff, and like in the beginning, he said that the kid died in the house. Then he said he took him out, and of course, I think you've heard about the shadows that were discovered underneath the truck. That he was bent out, picked somebody up, and put him in the truck, and that's what he's saying. He's saying that he put her on the floorboard, and then the kids sat in the seat when their feet were on top of their mom the whole drive up there. It's like
But he okay,
drive.
but right, but didn't he try to indicate that they were alive at that point, the children? And there's no way the kids would have been quiet and, you know, put up
That's
with
just
that.
it. Yeah, he said he was mad because first he went in there to smother them, and then after he killed Shanann, they came walking in and they were still alive. But Bella had bruises on her eyes and stuff from the smothering of the pillow that he used, and they were just running around the house crying. And he dragged her down. He wrapped her in the blanket in the bed sheet, Shanann, and then he couldn't carry her down the steps, so he just dragged her down the steps. Boom, 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 kind of thing down the steps, while the little kids watched. And
yeah,
then,
see, I can't imagine that the kids wouldn't have like thrown a complete conniption. And I mean, you know, we've had kids, so we understand what a complete conniption from a kid can be. I mean, sometimes you can't even grab them and pick them up and move them. They just,
especially if your dad just tried to kill you with a pillow.
Right, and then you're watching him drag your mom like, you know, she's a sack of potatoes down the steps. I mean, like there's no way a kid is going to do that.
He had a deep freezer in the basement, and the dog's been crazy in that basement. So I don't even know if she even was killed in that bed upstairs, because the dogs were going crazy in that basement, near the deep freezer, underneath the steps, near that he had like a mattress on the floor down there, where supposedly that's where he was sleeping, because they were having issues and stuff. So there's, like I said, the more you dig, there's so much to this case that I don't know if we'll ever get the true story. There's so much, and now there's this new information coming out about, you know, the mistress and what all she was into and stuff. So
yeah, but don't you think that, I'm sorry, I guess, sorry, I had to sneeze. Most inopportune time for that. Don't you think that because I mean, I don't know, I get the sense from him he needs to be in control of this whole thing. So there's no way he's going to let everybody know what the real story is. I mean, obviously, the things that he has done is purposefully causing nobody to be able to know for sure what happened, because you can't. He's got it to the point now. He's told so many stories that without indisputable evidence, which the police don't have as to exactly how it happened, he can keep making up new stories every day, and we'll never be able to know what the truth is. And I have to think that a lot of this has to do, reason why he keeps coming out these new stories is, one, he wants more attention, and two, he wants control over the situation. The problem is that he completely wiped out his family. How he thought he was going to be able to wipe out his family and move on and live this happy life with his mistress after having wiped out his family. I mean, even if you were the mistress, if you had any sense about you, how in the world would you be able to live with somebody who wiped out his whole family to be with you? Like, what would stop him from doing that to you because somebody else came into his life?
right.
And then, you know, Shanann's poor family, they don't know what happened. There's no way for them to know for sure what happened. So whatever small amount of closure they might get from knowing what happened, they're never going to have, because he's not going to allow that, because he is still keeping control of the situation by controlling the information that's coming out, and not only controlling the information, but changing up the story to the point that nobody will, even if he tells the truth, nobody will ever know that that story is the truth, because he's told so many other fabrications.
Yeah, it's the saddest thing ever, because that family was so beautiful and stuff, and no family is perfect, no marriage is perfect,
Well,
no,
speak for yourself.
and she portrayed
No,
this happy life on Facebook, but that was part of her business. Was because in the beginning I was
right.
like, boy, she is like always on there, and I mean, their whole life was on there, but it was part of the
Yeah, but
business.
that is really good marketing on her part for her business. I mean,
Right, that's what it was. It was
you
for the business.
know that her being able to build relationships with people, being able to thrive with the Thrive business, is because people had that personal connection with her and related to her, um, which, is unique, that somebody has those qualities and uses them in such a way. And she, obviously she was, I mean, whether or not she was, fiscally responsible or smart, she obviously knew how to run that business to the point that, she was doing well in the business. Now, whether or not their home finances were good or not, is a whole different
Yeah.
thing. But let's face it, every last one of us have had financial situations in our home life, and it hasn't caused, I hope, anybody that's in here, any of us, to go and kill any of our family members.
Right, right. No, no, not at all. Just
And lots of people, a lot of men anyway, but a lot of people, they cheat on their spouses and they don't kill. Nobody ends up dead.
right.
Um, and some people have affairs for dozens of years and still nobody ends up dead. There's no reason for people to end up dead. And I, one of the things that intrigues me about true crime in general, and why I follow it, um, is because I am a people watcher, and I have to wonder, people who make decisions so far left of anything that you would ever think to do, how do they get to that point? What causes them to get to the point that they feel they need to wipe out their family? And for some people, it's money. Some people, it's because they cheated. And some people, it's because they don't want to go through a divorce. And some people, it's some kind of religious fanatical thing. None of those things actually make logical sense, though, when you look at it from the outside. Okay, so the Bryan clan said lots of fighting, but no killing. Right. Like, I argue and yell, and my husband and I scream at each other, and we have never even touched each other. Melinda said, my husband mailed his car payment a week late last month. I let him live. Right.
Right.
Right. I mean, like my husband, at one point, he got mad at me about how I was paying bills, and this was early on in our relationship. And I said, fine, here's the checkbook, you deal with it. And he ended up bouncing checks, and I took it back and I said, no more. I didn't kill him over it. I mean, I mean, you know, it's, I don't know, but to me, it's really silly to fight over money. And I know a lot of people fight over money. And I'm sure they fought over money. I'm sure that, that I'm sure that his relationship with his mistress, certainly caused a whole lot of problems. I'm sure because they had money problems, I'm sure they argued about money. One of the things that my husband and I, though, and we've been together a really long time, we just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. There's two things that most couples fight about a lot that him and I, we just never do. And one is money, and two is the kids. We never fight about the kids, and we never fight about money. And so when we do fight and scream and holler and argue at each other, it usually is over really, really dumb stuff. And usually it's because somebody's had a bad day, somebody's stress level has reached its peak, and the other person did something very stupid. I would never think about wiping out my whole family or wiping out my husband because, you know, even if your spouse is cheating, right? That's obviously a problem you have to deal with, and so you have a variety of choices. Killing the other person should not be the option. I am so astounded at the lack of care for human life these days in people. I mean, there was just a school shooting in California a couple days ago, and we were talking about this missing woman case, and obviously now they're looking for her body because they're pretty sure she's dead. And all of these are for different reasons, right? All of these crimes are happening for different reasons. Yet when it comes down to it, if people actually valued life and valued the life of other people, killing them wouldn't be the resort that they used. I mean, guys used to go and beat the hell out of each other, and then they fight, and that'd be the end of it. Now everybody grabs a gun or a knife or a baseball bat or whatever, and no longer is it okay, we're gonna fist punch each other until somebody gets bloody enough to call uncle. We're literally killing people over stupid things. And somehow society has to figure out a way to get people to realize that everybody's life is valuable, and just because you're mad at them or because you hate them or because they wronged you doesn't mean you get to kill them. I mean, even if you go to some very Old Testament where an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, if somebody kills you, you can't kill them because you're already dead, right? So there's no reason for you to kill somebody else because they stole your car or they I mean, obviously, if you're in a situation where you're threatened, obviously that's a different scenario. But because your husband cheated on you, there's no reason to go kill them. I mean, we treat our dogs better than we treat other people, and it's quite ridiculous when I think about it. And the fact that these men, and let's face it, I have not heard of any, if at all, women who have, well, yeah, some of those crazy women, they're usually religious fanatics or God's telling them to do it. But here lately, it's been all these men completely wiping their family out, whether it's because they want to reset, because they have a mistress they want to go and start a new life over with. Where in the heck do they think in their head that if I wipe out my family to be with you, that wouldn't make you wonder, am I safe? I mean, and if it doesn't, it should make you wonder, when will it be my turn that he wipes me out because the next one in line is ready for him?
Right. And I don't think this happens with normal people. I think there's some people that there's something not altogether right. And he was always this perfect child. The mom said he was always the perfect one. We have trouble with the sister, but he was always Mr. Perfect. He was always compliant. He was always, and I just think that he was. And then when he got with her, she told him everything. She told him what to do. He obeyed. He said then something got triggered.
Right, but
and
okay, so I have a husband who likes to be told what to do. Like ever since we brought our son home from the hospital, I tease him all the time. I'm like, your brain fell out of your head. I don't know what happened, but I have to keep track of everything. I have to, okay, so like, if the yard work needs to be done, I have to tell him you need to do it today, right now, whatever. If I tell him to do it, it'll never get done because I didn't tell him exactly when to do it. But if I told him to go and kill somebody, I would like to think that he's got enough sense about him to go, what the hell are you talking about? I am not, that's just, and if you do not have the mental capacity to be able to know that just because somebody tells you to go and, I mean, seriously, do something bad, go rob a bank, go mug somebody, go kill somebody, then you do have issues and you need to get some help for that.
Mm-hmm. And that's just that, though. Your husband doesn't have that in him. I do believe that there's certain people that have something
Right.
just not
Right, but
right.
how do we find that? I mean, like that, to me, that is something that society needs to figure out. How do we check for this in people? How do we try to figure this out? Because maybe, maybe there is something we can do, whether it be with mental health or therapy, or obviously just, if this person commits this type of crime, we need to not be too lenient with them because they're going to have this tendency, there has to be something that, I mean, because I look at this is a societal issue. There is something that society is not doing correctly, that there is so much of this going on. And maybe it's because across the board, we tend to not have this value of life, whether it be because people don't really understand that dead is dead, or they think it can't happen to them. Right.
Desensitized.
You're right about that. You're right. We see this stuff all the time on the news. We live in St. Louis. There are shooting deaths just about every day. And some days it's multiple, and not just multiple people, but multiple times of it. And you're right, when we hear about it, we're like, oh, another shooting, unless it hits close to home. It's unfortunate because we shouldn't feel that way. Every single one of those people that are being killed for no reason, because a lot of them here are innocent people being killed. We should think each and every last one of them is a tragedy, and they should get equal news coverage. They should, because this is not okay. And yet I don't feel that the justice system sends the message either to the perpetrators that this is not okay. You have somebody who obviously there's enough evidence against them that a jury gives them the death penalty, not only finds them guilty, but gives them the death penalty. And yet they know they're going to have at least 20 more years to live, because they have to exhaust their appeals and all this stuff. So they know that they're going to have at least 20 years. Well, how is that a deterrent to not do those things? If you're a down and out person who doesn't like to work, granted, prison is not the best place in the world to be, but you have a place to stay and you have food. And I mean,
Right.
there are homeless people here that commit crimes, small petty thefts and stuff, to go to jail just so they can have meals. That shouldn't have to happen either. We should be doing something to stop that from happening. Just like we should be doing something to stop these kind of not only murders from happening, but there's so many of these people wiping out their families. Like, something is seriously wrong there. Something is seriously wrong there.
Right.
Well, and Melinda
he
says,
is
why is it always the quiet ones? It is always the quiet ones, it seems, doesn't it? It's
because
not the
it's not
loud,
natural.
boisterous ones.
It's not natural not to have. God made us with all these different emotions, and it's not natural to suppress your anger all the time, to
Right.
always be compliant, because eventually it's going to come out. And the longer it's stuffed, and the longer it broods, and if not exactly perfectly right in the head and stuff, when it does come out, some people explode. There's some people that, like, okay, my mother, she tell to every single thing, she just full vent and stuff. And there's a proverb that God has that says that a fool gives full vent to his anger. People that are just always just tell you everything they want you to know, and this is how I don't like you, and what you're doing wrong, and blah blah blah. And then there's the other people that are not healthy either, that never get angry, and they're always suppressing it, and they're always being compliant. And that's what he was, according to what his mother said. Totally obedient, totally quiet, never got angry, never. And that's what he told the police, that he never really gotten angry. Like that, she would yell at him, his wife would yell at him, and then he would go in the other room and smile, because in his head he thought about what he wanted to say to her, but he didn't, and he would just suppress it and suppress it. And then he met this other girl that seemed, I'm sorry, if he thought his wife was bossy, the other one was even more bossy and crazy. And she was a loose cannon too. And if she was pressing him, so now he's got two people pressing him, and he's pressing, and he just, without the right balance up in there, and never and being pressed from both sides, it just
Right,
it
but
was just
if you're being pressed from both sides, right? Why would you not choose the one who you've built your life with, though? Why would you choose the other person?
because he wasn't right. It has
I
to
mean,
go back to that.
you have children. Like, I don't know that I'll ever be able to comprehend. I mean, I have fleeting moments of I'd like to strangle my daughter. She's 14. She's a teenager, and we all know how they can be. But I would never actually do it. How in the world people can actually not only kill one child, but all of your children? I will never, ever understand how that happens. I mean, how in the world do you get to that point that that is okay to you in your head? I don't know. It would have been one thing. Let's see, hang on. Melinda says the forensic psychiatrist that testified at Tim Jones' trial is a family friend. When we cook out, I pick her brain because I find what she does so interesting. The other person is shiny and new. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of, Melinda. The grass is always greener until you get there, and then, the grass is just as green as it was where you were at.
And in Timothy Jones' trial, there wasn't another green grass. That was just absolutely insane. That was a
right, but they
both
both killed all of their children, and they both obviously have mental issues. I mean, so
He
but
didn't think there was any.
let's face it, Timothy Jones, if his wife had still been with him, I mean, she absolutely could have ended up in the same situation that, Chris Watts' family did.
Right, but in this case, there was no other. I mean, there wasn't. He
Right.
had that one girl that was
But,
staying there, but
maybe there didn't, I mean, with Chris Watts, there may not have needed to be a mistress. It could have been something else that triggered him at some point. The problem is, it would help if there was some way to, I mean, I know you can't really have checklists for these things, but after the fact, a lot of times, hi Maui Chickadee. A lot of times after the fact, you'll have psychiatrists and psychologists. They will go back and look for the warning signs, right? And a lot of the time, the majority of the time, there are some warning signs that either people didn't pick up on, didn't know there were warning signs. Sometimes there aren't really any. But to me, if the majority of the time there are warning signs, then there there has to be some sort of at least minimum standard of things to watch out for. Particularly if you see these signs, maybe you should consider getting out of the relationship, or take your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever to get checked out, to have a psychological test done. I mean, my thing is, I have had to take psychological tests to get jobs. It might behoove people to in this day and age where you're meeting people from, I mean, you can meet people from around the globe because everybody has access to the internet. And so we have access to so many more people, which means we also have access to so many more crazy people than ever before. Because, before, we were in this location and, maybe we went to vacation here for a couple weeks and maybe we, but our sphere of influence was much smaller and now it's much larger. And you really have to be careful. I mean, look at these Craigslist killers and look at these people on dating websites that literally are on there to stalk people, whether it be to rape them or to rape them and murder them, or whatever sick thing they have going on in their head. People really have to be careful. And it does happen sometimes that people are with their spouse for 10, 15 years, and then, they have some kind of psychotic break. But usually there is some sort of idea, things that have happened that, maybe could have given you a clue or made you stop and think. Or, I mean, we're all women. We have women's intuition. And sometimes when we go, that doesn't make sense, maybe we should really look into that instead of just going, huh, I'll save that for later. And then by the time later comes, you're dead and you can't use that to go, maybe I should have, looked into that further.
Well, when you look at some of Shanann's texts, like later, like a few weeks before, when they were starting to have problems and stuff, she was saying to him, she was saying in a text, I figured out what's wrong in our relationship, and she's saying that it's one-sided.
Right.
I do all the talking and I do all the, and I don't get much from you. And she never really realized it. She never realized it till then because everything was just moving along. He was doing whatever he was supposed to do. She was telling him what to do. He was doing it and stuff. And he seemed like he was all happy, and she was, busy with her stuff and going on, going. And then all of a sudden, when she was like, it seems to me like it's always one sided. I'm the one giving out, and you're not really giving in and stuff. And I don't think he really knew. I don't know. He had issues with emotions and stuff. Because he even when he was dating the new girl, he was looking up how to know when you're in love, and when do you tell her you love her, and all this other stuff that, okay,
Right. A normal
well, you
person wouldn't
dated
have to
Shania,
do
you
because
should
you
have
would
known.
know. Right. You would know what those emotions are.
Well, yeah, because he's married already, but he hadn't really dated before her either and stuff. So, um, he uh, so it was so there. That's a warning sign right there, I guess. In a way, it's all just one sided. There's no emotion come from the other person. The other person is
Well, you
so.
would think a lack of
If the other person does
emotion.
ever get mad, yeah, that has to be a trigger, because I mean, a flag of some sort. Because I mean, nobody is perfect. If you follow somebody 24/7 and they don't ever like get irritated, or if they're in traffic and they don't get irritated, or they don't get, have a bad day and get crabby and stuff. Like, my head was pounding me last night, and I'm like, and I'm sorry, but my head's been hurting all day, and I'm just crabby and stuff. I mean, you can't be perfect all the time.
I
Nobody.
know you snapped really
You know what I'm
bad at me
saying? So
yesterday. I got really upset. Just messing
what
with you.
happened?
I said, I
Oh.
know I was messing with
But you
you.
know what I'm
I
saying?
said, yeah, you were really crabby and you snapped at me. No, you didn't.
I did.
No, you didn't. I was messing with you.
Oh, okay. But you know what I'm saying? It's just, and to, uh, and the man, when you go back to God's mandate, the man is supposed to be the leader of the home. The man is supposed to be. We've emasculated some of these men to where they're subservient to the women, and it's just, and some guys like it that way. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of men that like the take charge woman, and a lot of them we're doing it because they're not. But I just think when it's to the point where they are totally like little, no, what do I do now, mommy? Kind of
Don't you
thing with
think
the
that
relationship.
that
It's just.
don't you think that part of that emasculation though has really had a lot to do with the extreme feminists? I mean, there is a difference between men and women, and the fact that there are people that don't want to admit that there is a difference. I mean, we're built differently. Like, women can bear children, men cannot. There are just differences that you can't get away from. And um, I don't think that uh, I don't think that it has helped men in their quote manlyhood when there are areas in which women have been created, to be these equal creatures. 50, I mean, obviously, like, a marriage is 50-50. Well, it should be 100-100. But anyway, there are jobs that used to, be mostly men, because men, they're built for strength and, being able to take on certain tasks that, not that women can't do, but most women are not built in a way that would allow them to do it. But what we've done is we've taken standards that were here, and we've said, okay, well, the men's standard is still here, but for women, they can do the same thing, but their standard is here. And, if you're a man and you have to do this much, and a woman only has to do this much, and you're getting the same result, that can't make you feel good as a man.
Right. Right.
I mean, I also think
Yeah.
that, the fact that, okay, so, my husband was brought up to be a gentleman. He holds doors for people. We have brought up our kids to be that way. But yet there are men who have had enough experiences trying to hold doors open for women and getting screamed at about it, that those men will no longer hold doors open for women.
I know, and I don't understand that either. I don't get that. I'm like,
But but
I'm
right,
all
but
about
you're
the
taking
getting
those
paid the
manly
same.
things that men see as a manly thing, like, uh, you know, I should do this for a woman because I'm a man. I'm going to be nice to women. And you're taking that mentality
Right,
that every man used to have, and you've got women that are screaming at them, I can hold the door myself. Well, we know you're capable of holding the door yourself. What is wrong with
right,
somebody
and it's a
being nice
nice
and
thing.
holding it
I
for you?
just, yeah, and that's a lot of, I don't understand all that jargon, and that's that women's lib and all that other nonsense and equal rights and blah blah blah. But you know, and look, when I got a clear picture of it is when I read the book of Ephesians in the Bible, because I always go back to what does God say, and God says the man is the head and the woman is the weaker vessel. She is below the man and stuff. And God mandated it, so it has to be good because everything that God does is good. So if God says it, then I accept it. And now, is it saying that if you're in an abusive relationship with a man, he's beating the crap out of you, that you're supposed to stay? No, that's not what it says. Does it say that you have no rights and that he rules you in the house? No, that's not what God's saying either. He's just saying that he built us differently. He built a man to be stronger. He built a man to go out to fight in battles and stuff. He built the woman as a vessel. She is the helpmeet of the man. And a lot of women can't stand that either. But you know what? When I read it in the Bible, I was fine with it because God made the woman to be the helpmate of the man. We're supposed to help stuff. We're supposed to build them up and help them and stuff. We're not, but now we're competing with them and stuff. And now, like, yeah, well, we can go out and fight in battles too. And and don't you hold that door for me? What the heck you think? I'm
Right,
sorry. If a guy opens the door for me, I think it's wonderful. I think it's very nice.
right,
And when the elevator opens and they let you go first, I think that's very courteous and nice. I think it's
right.
very gentleman like to do that kind of stuff.
And I like
I
I
and
like
that
guys being gentlemen.
Yeah,
I
and
want them
yeah,
to be
I think women
gentlemen.
have a
I
lot to
raised
do
my
with that.
son to be a gentleman.
My son, I mean that women, and that's women's fault. Yeah, that's totally their fault. they, I just don't, I don't understand the whole mindset of, even before I was a Christian. I was like, what's the deal? Because when I was going to college, I accidentally took a, I say accidentally, I thought it would be an easy A. I took a women's lib class. What was I thinking? Oh my gosh, I heard so much jargon in there, and I just couldn't wait for that class to be over with. And I just like filtered all that out, and I did my other homework in that class because I'm like, I don't agree. This is craziness in here and stuff, and I still don't agree with it. And then when I read in the Bible, I'm like, yeah, he's right. And he points out that Eve was the one that was deceived and not Adam. And okay, yeah, he's right. It's true because women, we go with our feelings. We do. We are built differently, and I think it's a wonderful thing how we're built. We do have a sixth sense, intuition. That's why we're supposed to help the man if he's got a crazy idea and we don't feel right about it. We're supposed to speak up and say, I don't think that's a good idea, and that's feeling. And our feelings usually are pretty spot on. We're good at
Right.
that and stuff, and that's how God made us. He made us different. It doesn't mean that we're supposed
It
to
doesn't mean
we're
that one is better
different
than
for a
the
reason because
other. That we're different because we complement each other. And there's a reason for
exactly
that.
right, right. I
Yeah,
mean, and
I
it's a
I
beautiful
know.
thing, and it just and they take it, they've made it something bad. They've made, oh, God is not for women. God is for women. Oh, if anyone is for women, God is for women. You know? Yeah. But, they taken it and they've made it this whole what it's not that and stuff. And that just shows their ignorance of not actually reading the Bible because they're showing their ignorance by saying that God is not for women and stuff. Yeah, he is. He made women. Yes, he is for women. If
Since
anyone
you
is for
since you
women, he
have
chose a woman.
since you have brought up this topic of God, and obviously, Chris has found God. Do you think that, because he's not the only one that has done this, go to jail, do these horrible things, and then all of a sudden you find God? Do you think that it's genuine? Do you think that he has nothing better to do? Do you think it's for attention? Do you do you think what do you think that's for?
He says that something happened to him while he was in the cell, and that he saw these dark figures, and one of them was his grandma, and that he felt a evil presence come out of him, and that all of a sudden he was converted and stuff. I know he's used some of the Bible verses, and he said he read it, all of it, and he's used some of it out of context, and it just seemed like version. I can't judge a man's heart, but it seems awfully convenient. But Ted Bundy said in an interview one time that, when you go to prison, you either find God or you find the devil, I guess. Most of them go in there and then all of a sudden they're converted. He thinks he's delusional to the fact that he thinks that the laws are going to be changed eventually and that he's going to get out and he's going to be a preacher. So
Right.
I don't know. I think
And here's the thing to me, if he really wanted to be a preacher, he is in the perfect place for preaching. He is in jail with criminals. Like, that's the perfect place to be starting your career as a preacher.
Oh yeah,
I don't buy it.
It happens in the
right. Well, I mean, when I was
remorse in it. People say that there's all the interviews. He has no.
How can he have any remorse when he doesn't seem to have any emotion about anything? Like, he talks about the things that happened so very much matter of fact, like it was no big thing. And whether it's a lie coming out of his mouth or the truth, because I highly doubt that 100% of what he has said is a lie. We just are not going to be able to pick out the truth from the lies. But the fact that he says every bit of it the same way, with the same lack of emotion about it. I mean, first of all, I can't even imagine wiping out your whole family. But then talking about wiping out your whole family, and okay, maybe you don't get upset about your wife because maybe you just hated her that much. But about your kids, how do you not have any emotion about your kids? That means you obviously could not have loved them, which means you had no emotion for them, which, would be why you have no emotion about the fact that you took away their life.
Right. Right. I think that I don't know. I think that there was definitely some dark forces at work in this case that and they prey on people that are weak, people that are not, people that are that are empty like he was. And I think that he did probably have some darkness, some dark forces, and then from what he's saying now, that the mistress was into some dark stuff. That it's very possible, and that they seek out people that are weak, that
Well,
are
right.
compliant, that are not right, to do these evil things through and stuff, because they work through humans, and stuff to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. But whether he got rid of those demons, I don't think that once something is attached to you like that, that it can just disappear just like that and stuff. Surely God can always kind of do anything. God can, save you. I know I have talked to that. He used to be on drugs, and the next day they woke up and they were done. They could do no drugs, no nothing and stuff. Certainly and stuff. But when it comes to demon possession and stuff, I've seen a lot of stuff where, I mean, we don't talk about it in this country too much, but if you go to Africa and South Africa and all that and stuff, there's that it happens all. They are very real over there, and they believe in them, and they have deliverances all the time with that stuff. But you need a deliverance and stuff. The fact that he just says that they just came out and stuff after all that darkness happened with him and stuff, and there's still demonic stuff happening in that house and stuff, that I don't know. It's awfully convenient. Then all of a sudden, the Bible says the devil's a liar and that he masquerades as an angel of light. So I I I don't totally believe no that he's converted. I don't. I don't. As a Christian, you could tell when
Do you think he's
has
using it to his advantage for some
I think
reason?
so. The woman that just wrote that book, she said when he started talking about the murders and stuff, his eyes got dark, and she said, "I told him, has anybody told?" Yeah, he goes, "Yeah, people have told me that my eyes get dark and stuff," and to me, that doesn't tell
Right.
me that he's got the light of Christ in him and stuff. And usually, as a Christian, you can sense other people that are like minded, that have that spiritual. Just you don't sense it with him when with what he's saying and what he's talking about. No, I mean, and the fact that she said his eyes got dark, that right there is like. If you're filled with the light of Christ, because Jesus said that the eyes are the lamp of the body. And if your eyes are full of light, then your whole body's full of light. But if your eyes are dark, then your body is dark. So the eyes are the lamp to the soul, right? So I don't know. No, I don't believe he's totally. Maybe he likes to think so, and maybe he is using it as
Right.
attention.
Right. Well, it seems like he does a
I
lot
think
of
he
things to
thinks
get
he's going
attention.
to get out. He really thinks he's going to get out. He thinks
Do you
he keeps
think that
talking
if
about
he
how laws are going to
do you
change him.
think do you think that maybe his delusion is that he can at some point make himself look good enough that they're going to be like, "Oh, you know what, Chris, you're such a changed person. We're just going to let you go and have another chance." I mean, I
Absolutely.
almost feel like that's what he's thinking because um but yet it makes no sense because when you look at his
He,
demeanor when he talks about what happened, since there's no remorse or emotion about it, um how could he possibly think that people are going to think, "Oh my gosh, he's a changed person. Oh, he's such a good and wonderful, he could be a wonderful upstanding citizen. Let's, give him another opportunity out in the world." It doesn't make
yeah,
any sense to
no.
me.
And the fact that he's not even talking to a psychiatrist, and these people, they stick him in jail. I think he needs to be talk. Somebody needs to talk to him like a psychiatrist, and get in his mind and stuff. Usually they just throw these people in jail,
Well,
and they're like, okay, well, just
the
throw them in
problem
jail.
is, money. All of that costs money, and we all are paying for that. So
Right,
you want to pay more
right,
tax. I
and
mean,
that,
it
right,
comes down to, do you want to pay more taxes? Because they obviously can't, the government doesn't do well with our money the way it is now. Why do we want, why do we want to keep giving them more? It's a
right,
shame that there
right.
isn't some sort of like some sort of charitable organization that could work with psychiatrists and psychologists, to get them to, donate some time and evaluate,
Oh, sure, yeah.
some of these guys and maybe work with them. Maybe, I mean, there are probably people in prison that could be what I would consider salvaged. Obviously, there are some that are not salvageable, but the problem is we send them to prison to rot until they serve their time or they die. And
Right.
it's not really helping anybody. Well, we have been talking for over an hour and a half, so usually we only do these for about an hour, but we did talk about another case beforehand. So I want to thank everybody for coming, and I want to encourage everybody to join our Discord. I'm sure this will not be our last discussion about Chris Watts, because since I know so little about this case, I do have a lot of questions. And if there's anything you would like for us to talk about, or any aspect of this case, or anybody who wants to come on the panel sometime, please, please, please join our Discord. And I will get the Discord, let's see, up in it should post it in a moment. If not, it did post it earlier in the chat. I think I put 2 and I only needed to put 1. And as often as we can on Saturdays, we'll do these true crime case discussions. And if anybody has an idea for one that they want us to cover, right, Maui Chickadee, it would be great if some retired psychologists go around prisons and do it for a small fee in the retirement. Right. Or, quite honestly, they could donate their time to people in prison and write it off as a tax write-off. I mean, that is allowed. So I don't know why more wouldn't do it. I'm sure there's enough of them to, be able to spend, an hour or 2 every month or something, just something, to try to help with some of this stuff, or even just like read the files and, and then decide, okay, well, this person, I could probably go and do some good with them or something like that. Certainly wouldn't hurt. But anyway, thank you everybody for coming. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell. If you know anybody who's interested in this kind of stuff, please share it out. And if everybody would please hit the like button on their way out, and feel free to leave any comments under the video, any questions. I would really like for people to join Discord. We're in there all the time talking, and it's a lot easier for people to let me know things that they want to be covered, or any questions they might want us to address. So thank you everybody for coming, and we will catch you next time. Maria, thank you for joining me again.